8:32 a.m. At Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson, the alarm is still echoing when the lead F-22 Raptor tears off the runway and rockets into a brutal 9G vertical climb, ripping through the calm of the Alaskan morning. There is no room for a slow build. Just 400 miles out, two Russian Tu-95 Bear H-bombers and a pair of Su-35 Flanker E fighters are already moving into the Alaska Air Defense Identification Zone. These bombers are built to carry long-range cruise missiles, low-flying and hard to detect, designed to reach deep into the continent. American pilots shove their throttles forward and sprint to intercept the formation before it can reach a critical point. What unfolds is a high-speed showdown between two global powers at the edge of the planet. But this story started long before the fighters hit the sky. At 7:15 a.m., deep in the Gulf of Alaska, the USS Hopper, a 9,000-ton Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, is cutting through 10-foot Arctic swells. It is not simply on patrol, it is hunting for information. Its Spy-1D phased array radar, the core of the Aegis combat system, is already slicing through electronic interference and tracking the Russian aircraft while they are still over international waters. The ship's crew captures altitude, speed, and heading, then pushes that information through Link 16, a secure tactical network that functions like high-speed battlefield internet. By 7:45 a.m., Aegis has already delivered fire control quality tracking data to NORAD, giving U.S. forces a 90-minute advantage to build the entire response chain. The USS Hopper is not just observing, it is boxing the formation in. Working with Space Force satellites, the destroyer helps ensure the Tu-95 bombers cannot disappear behind the curvature of the Earth. Inside the Combat Information Center, sailors are already running launch simulations for SM-6 interceptors, calculating where they would meet any incoming cruise missiles if the bombers opened their bays. Long before the public would ever know something is happening, the defensive picture is already coming together. By 9 a.m., the air over the Bering Strait has turned into a moving chessboard. An E-3 Sentry AWACS cruises at 30,000 feet, its APY-2 radar dome sweeping the sky like a giant spotlight in the dark. It is not only watching, it is directing the F-22s into a stealth pincer. The Tu-95s are anything but subtle. Their NK-12 turboprop engines produce such a powerful acoustic signature that even underwater sensor arrays can pick them up. The Su-35 escorts, however, are trying to work smarter, using passive sensors to search for the American fighters without giving away too much themselves. The F-22s answer with complete electronic discipline. At 9:12 a.m., the lead Raptor drops into a split S from above, using the sun and altitude to stay hidden in the blind spots of the Russian fighters. He is not relying on his own radar yet. Instead, he is receiving a live stream of targeting information from the AWACS and the USS Hopper, fed directly into his helmet system. When the F-22 does use its AN/APG-77A ESA radar, it operates in a low probability of intercept mode, changing frequencies so quickly it blends into background noise. The Russian pilots scan the horizon for a threat they cannot find, unaware that the Raptors are already sitting exactly where they do not want them. At 9:15 a.m., American pilots switch their master arms hot. They now have a digital lock on all four Russian aircraft. The F-22's electronic warfare suite is already cataloging radar signatures, building a detailed fingerprint of every emitter in the Russian formation. Every move the opposing aircraft make is being answered by a layered network they cannot fully detect, let alone outpace. Then comes the first real shock. At 9:20 a.m., with no warning on the Russian threat receivers, two F-22s suddenly appear off the wing of the formation. The effect is almost surreal. The American fighters did not seem to approach at all. They simply materialized inside visual range. The Raptors slide into formation with slow, controlled, high-angle maneuvers made possible by thrust vectoring engines. The message is unmistakable. We have been here, and you never knew. Every one of the American fighters is carrying serious capability. Each F-22 holds 6 AIM-120D AMRAAMs inside internal weapon bays to preserve stealth, along with 2 AIM-9X Sidewinders for closer engagements. The AIM-9X allows a pilot to cue a shot simply by looking through the helmet visor, even if the aircraft itself is pointed elsewhere. The balance of confidence is obvious. The American pilots know exactly where everyone is, the other side does not. By 9:35 a.m., the Su-35 pilots try to get more assertive, banking toward the Raptors in an effort to force a reaction. But the F-22 crews remain perfectly composed. Using the aircraft's superior agility and clean aerodynamic profile, they stay in the dominant position behind the Russian fighters. The Su-35 is impressive on paper, especially with thrust vectoring engines of its own, but external fuel tanks and missiles create drag and reduce its edge. The Raptor, with everything carried internally, remains sleek and efficient. And throughout it all, communication stays smooth and controlled. The American crews are not scrambling. They are executing. While the aerial standoff unfolds above, the Navy is providing a powerful safety net from below. At 9:45 a.m., the USS Hopper and USS Kidd keep their Mark 41 vertical launch systems at high readiness. Each destroyer represents a multi-billion-dollar example of layered, multi-domain defense. Had the Russian bombers attempted to launch cruise missiles, both ships were prepared to answer with SM-6 interceptors, weapons capable of engaging everything from low-flying missile threats to terminal-phase ballistic targets. Because of cooperative engagement capability, the destroyers would not even need to wait for their own radars to see the threat. With AWACS data feeding the network, they could engage based on someone else's eyes, reaching beyond the horizon before the threat ever fully developed in their own view. Under the surface, another layer is already in motion. At 9:50 a.m., a P-8A Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft circles 50 miles away after dropping a pattern of sonobuoys into the water. The goal is clear. Make sure no Russian submarine is trying to use the air intercept as cover for a more dangerous approach. Armed with Mark 54 lightweight torpedoes and using its APY-10 radar to scan for surface anomalies, the Poseidon adds yet another link to the chain. Its acoustic data flows back to the USS Hopper, which helps assemble the wider picture and share it forward to the F-22s. This is not two fighters confronting four aircraft. It is a full-spectrum defensive web stretching from the seafloor to the stratosphere. At 10:15 a.m., American endurance becomes part of the story. A KC-135 Stratotanker meets the Raptors over the Beaufort Sea for mid-air refueling, supported by a KC-46 Pegasus to keep the operation sustained. The result is simple but powerful. The F-22s can remain on station as long as needed. The cost is significant, roughly $85,000 per hour to keep a single Raptor airborne. But the strategic return is impossible to ignore. For the cost of one major operation, the U.S. has denied access to a sensitive approach route and protected critical infrastructure, trade corridors, and energy assets across Alaska. That is not just a tactical success. It is a demonstration of strategic economics. The professionalism of the KC-46 boom operator at 10:20 a.m. highlights the human factor behind all this hardware. In Arctic turbulence, with jets moving and fuel transfer underway, the boom is guided with extraordinary precision. The F-22 pilots can refuel without losing awareness of the Russian formation. What sounds routine on paper is, in reality, a difficult ballet that many air forces would struggle to perform even in perfect conditions. By 10:45 a.m., the Russian bombers finally bank west and begin heading back toward the Russian Far East. The F-22s shadow them until they are well outside the ADIZ, making sure there is no sudden last-minute turn or surprise maneuver. Even then, the tracking does not stop. The AWACS and USS Hopper continue to monitor the retreat for another 300 miles. And this is where the real payoff begins. At 10:55 a.m., the USS Hopper uses its electronic warfare suite to record the radar signatures and radio frequencies used by the Su-35s. This process, electronic fingerprinting, is one of the most valuable outcomes of a real-world intercept. Every radar has a distinctive rhythm, pulse pattern, and energy profile. Capturing that data means future ships and aircraft can recognize these systems faster, jam them more effectively, and counter them more precisely. The information is uploaded into larger intelligence networks and becomes part of a growing library that sharpens the edge of every other platform in the fleet. So the Russian formation does not just leave without success, it also leaves behind information it never intended to share. By 11:30 a.m., the F-22s are back on the ground at Elmendorf. The flying portion is done, but the real analysis is only beginning. What this encounter proves is simple. The Arctic is no longer a remote frontier. It is a connected battlespace where the side that processes information faster controls the pace, the shape, and the outcome of the entire event. NORAD and the U.S. Navy have shown that the northern approach remains tightly guarded and that even in one of the most isolated regions on Earth, American surveillance and coordination can create an almost complete operational picture. What stands out most is not just the technology, but the people operating it. The F-22 pilot is more than an aviator. He is also managing data, interpreting sensors, prioritizing threats, and making decisions under crushing G-forces in extreme cold. The same goes for the sailors aboard the USS Hopper, the AWACS crew overhead, the Poseidon operators below, and the tanker crews extending the mission. Their discipline is what turns hardware into real capability. Meanwhile, the Russian crews are heading home knowing they were tracked, measured, and contained by a network they could barely perceive. From startup to withdrawal, they were never truly in control of the encounter. Now imagine you are the tactical action officer aboard USS Hopper. It is 9:30 a.m. The Russian bombers are locked on your SPY-1D radar. Then your sonar team reports a fast-moving underwater contact, possibly a Boré-class submarine, using the air incident as cover to slip into position. At the same moment, the E-3 reports that one Su-35 has turned toward the F-22s and activated its jamming package. Now you have a decision to make. Your Link 16 bandwidth is limited. Do you prioritize sending submarine targeting data to the P-8 Poseidon, or do you focus your electronic warfare support on helping the F-22s punch through the Su-35's jamming? If you focus too much on the underwater contact, you risk weakening the air picture. If you focus entirely on the air threat, you might miss a much bigger move below the surface. Do you divide attention and accept reduced effectiveness in both areas, or commit fully to one side and trust your instincts on the other? Drop your strategy in the comments. How would you manage the chain of decisions when every second matters? In today's world, the unseen contest belongs to the side that can sort, share, and act on information faster than the other side can respond. The Tu-95s and Su-35s came looking for an opening and instead ran into a layered network that gave them almost no room to work. In the Arctic, coordinated American power remains a decisive force, keeping the Northern Gateway secure and control of the sky firmly in hand. If you enjoy detailed breakdowns like this, support the channel with a like and subscribe. More deep dives are on the way, covering the technology, tactics, and coordination shaping the modern front line. The scenario in this video is a technical and tactical analysis inspired by reported US intercepts of Russian aircraft near Alaska. While it draws on real platforms, real specifications, and real regional tension, the exact sequence described here is a hypothetical dramatization created to illustrate US naval, air defense, and NORAD doctrine. Until next time, stay sharp and keep watching the horizon.